Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is one that I am super excited about. It is part of a big group collaboration put together by Sam from Sam Reads a Little. I will have everybody's YouTube channels linked down below, and be sure to go and check out their video because this is such a fun concept and I am very excited about it. So Sam just asked us to come up with books that fit into 3 different categories: underhyped books, overhyped books, and books that are worth the hype. So I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be really fun to look at everybody else's videos because obviously we're all going to have different opinions, and it will be really interesting to see which books we think are overhyped and which ones are worth the hype and which ones are underhyped. So okay, I felt like for sure I could do like a whole video just on books that are underhyped or just on books that are worth the hype. Mostly underhyped. I feel like I have a lot of books that are underhyped, but I am for sure sticking to 2. And I decided that since I have talked about so many books that I think are underhyped recently in my videos, I'm going to go with some that I haven't mentioned lately at all. And so the first book that I want to mention is actually one of my favorite books, and it is His Muse. So these are for books that I think are underhyped. This book is fantastic. It is an age gap romance with an older woman, younger man, and it is angsty and it is wonderful. And honestly, I have not seen anybody else reading this or talking about this on BookTube that I have seen, and that makes me sad. It only has 600 Goodreads ratings, 600 total, and I love this book. And I think y'all should check it out. So the basic premise of this is our heroine is a Black woman who is going through a very painful divorce. Her husband has left her for a younger woman, and she has a grown daughter at the time. And she is sort of not getting along with her grown daughter. They're at odds, and it's just all of her relationships are sort of failing. And so she decides to do something she's always wanted to do, which is to go to Paris, live there, and start a travel company for other women, Black women, who are in a similar situation as she is. When she gets over there, she's invited to a gallery exhibition one night, and she meets a young artist, and he is absolutely awestruck by her beauty. He thinks that her curves are luscious and gorgeous, and he just is drawn to her like a moth to a flame. He cannot look away from her. He is just like, her, I want her, and he pursues her. He is so romantic with her. Like, it is just so beautiful to watch this very handsome, attractive younger man just kind of go out of his mind for her, especially when you consider that what her husband did to her, and this is sort of the first time in her life where she's able to do what she wants to do and have freedom of choice in her own life. And it's just, it's so beautiful. The ending in here, you do get a happily ever after. At times it feels like it may be bittersweet, but I love this book. I love the way this man loved her. I felt like it was perfect, and I think it is definitely underhyped, and everybody should read it. Okay, so this next book that I think is underhyped is actually, I don't necessarily know. I mean, this book had about 1,000 ratings on Goodreads, and I know that this is an author that's well known if you read historical romance, but she's definitely underhyped, I feel like, in correlation to how talented she is, and that is Elisa Braden. This is the last book in her historical romance series. Well, it's not the end. It's the most current one out, so it came out last December. She is writing more in this series, and I love this book so freaking much. I read it at the end of the year last year, and I included it on my top historicals last year, but I haven't really talked about it a whole lot this year because it was a 2021 book for me. But I love this book with my whole heart and soul. I think it is so romantic. If you love a big, giant Scottish hero who is protective and is sweet and tender, but also, like, gruff with other people, but sweet and tender with the heroine, like, you need to read this book. It's so great. He is also, like, this has the situation where she's in danger, and so he wants to protect her, and so she moves into his house, and it's just so much fun. I think that even if you don't like historical romances, like, please give this a try. If you've never read a historical romance, if you're a contemporary reader, give this a shot. Give this hero a chance. Give this couple a chance, because it has elements of suspense, because, you know, she's in danger. Somebody is hunting her to do her harm, and this great Scottish man has to go to extreme lengths to protect her, and he is all too happy to do so. So it's wonderful. I love this book so much. It's my favorite one in the series. You can read this out of order, too. You don't have to read it in order. If you just want to pick this one up and give it a shot, like, please do it, because it's fantastic, and I love it. It's so swoony. Okay, so now we're gonna do the books that I think are overhyped. Okay, so the first book I want to talk about is actually a series, and it's a series of like 8 or 9 books, okay? And I gave this book a chance. I truly did. I tried to read the first book. And I just could not. I could not handle this book. I could not handle the writing, the characters, anything about it. It is the Zodiac Academy. I feel like this book has such a chokehold on readers, specifically on TikTok. Like, people are out of their minds for this book, and truly, this is a case where I do not understand it. I just completely don't understand it. I know it's a bully romance, and that is, if that's your thing, that's great. But it's also like I've heard it's sort of like a magical school for fae, and I think maybe it also is like a white shoes at some point. Like, I don't even know. I got to like 20% of the first book, and I was like, first of all, the writing is so completely juvenile. Second of all, the characters are flat. There's no development. There are twin girls who are the heroines, and I literally could not tell them apart. Like, you cannot tell them apart. They are basically the same person. And then, like, the love interest comes in, but he's just super mean, but like, that's supposed to be attractive. I truly do not understand the hype with this series, and I've heard people say, well, you just have to get through like so many books, and like, no, how is this book this long? And the books aren't small; they're big, chunky books. The writing quality was poor. The characters were flat and underdeveloped. What romance? I don't know. The magic fantasy world was like 5% developed, maybe. Like, these were just, I understand like I don't even want to say guilty pleasures. I understand like it being drawn to like trashy media because, like, look, I'm your resident Vampire Academy girl, Vampire Diaries. Like, I love that stuff so freaking much. And I recognize that it's not quality television or literature, but I still freaking love it, okay? So I do, in that way, I understand how people could like this, but I also am like, I completely don't understand that this is overhyped. Way overhyped. Okay, so this book may upset you. If you love these books, like, I am sorry, but I didn't, and this be my channel, we're here on my channel, and these are my opinions, and you are more than welcome to your opinions, but I 100% feel like this book is overhyped. I don't think this is a terrible book. I think the writing in this book is pretty good. I will leave it at that. I do see the appeal in a way, like, and I didn't, okay, so the book is this, Things We Never Got Over. Now, I see the appeal of a small town romance with a grumpy sunshine dynamic. I do. I love books like that. I love them. I'm going to talk about one in a minute. But this book was, for one thing, way too long. 1,000,000 times too long. Like, 600 pages? No. Immediately no. Also, this book has very stereotypical characters, which in a way I get the appeal of that because that means it's something familiar, it's something that we can easily relate to, something that we know that allows us to sort of just sink into the story more easily. But that's something that I find off-putting. I want my characters to be more multidimensional. I want there to be not a lot of hard stereotypes specifically in my characters. But, like, the thing that really gets me with this one is how immature these characters were. Like, the hero's, like, 43, the heroine's in her late 30s, and they acted like they were 19 or 20, and I just did not understand that at all. And truly, the number one reason why I do not like this book is the hero was a jerk. The hero was a jerk to her. For almost the entire book, he was mean. And I know that's a popular trope, right? Alpha holes. He's grumpy. But there's got to be a line, right? It can't be too hard, and I just felt like there was very little redeeming warmth or kindness to him. He was just a jerk. He was just a mean hero. And I don't know about you, but I'm tired of reading about mean men. We encounter plenty of those in real life. I don't want it in my fiction. I don't want it in my romance. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about books that are worth the hype. So, without a doubt, the book that I have to mention is Heartless by Elsie Silver. Let me just tell you, I always approach hyped books with a little bit of caution, maybe too much caution, maybe too much of a critical eye. I feel like if, as readers, when we hear that a book is getting a lot of hype, I feel like a lot of times we do approach that with a certain amount of bias that we can't really come over because of the hype that it's receiving. So I think it's a pretty rare thing for a book to really be worth the hype. But this book was, and it's Heartless. Heartless by Elsie Silver 100% worth the hype. This was a pure delight from beginning to end. This is one of the few books I have read this year where I literally have zero critiques. I don't see anything in this book, and by no means am I an authority, but I don't see anything to be improved upon in this book. I felt like the hero was the perfect amount of grumpy. The heroine was sunshine. She was witty. She was funny. She was vulnerable at times. The kid in here was perfect. This book was funny, like laugh out loud funny, not like over the top funny. The romance in here was so swoony. This was just a perfect romance, period, and without a doubt the best small town romance I've ever read. This book was fantastic, and in my opinion, it is 100% deserving of the hype. Okay, and the last book that I have to talk about that I do think is worth the hype is The Secret by Julie Garwood. So I read my first Julie Garwood a few years ago, and I did not read The Secret. Most people say go with The Secret first. I read The Bride. I didn't love The Bride. I gave it 3 stars. I was disappointed because, again, it was a book that was very hyped. This author was very hyped, and so I stayed away from her books for a while, because I was just really nervous, specifically about this book, because literally I have heard nobody say anything negative about this. No one that I know of has talked about this book in a negative way. So I read this with a bit of trepidation. It's a Highlander romance. He's a grumpy hero. He's a bit domineering. The heroine is just, she's very spunky. She's very, she puts him through his paces. She makes him work for it. They have great banter. This just felt very readable. It had a little bit of a historical medieval mixed with a rom-com vibe, almost a little bit like A Knight's Tale, only in Scotland. Like, this book was just delightful. And once I read this, I was like, okay, you're right. Y'all are right. This book is worth the hype. You were correct. I really enjoyed it. Loved the romance. I thought this was great. This is a classic historical romance that I do think holds up and that I do think is well worth the hype. I really loved this book, and I am glad I read it, even though it took me a few years because I only read this book this year. So, alright, thank you so much for watching this video, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to check out all the other channels that I'll have linked down below. If you have made it this far, please feel free to leave me a horse emoji for Heartless, because I love that book so much and it's about horses, okay? And I'll see y'all in my next video.